Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Data Exposed. I'm your host, Scott Klein, and back with me today is Luis. Luis, how are you?
Hi, Scott. I'm good. Thank you. Good to see you.
So, for those that didn't shamelessly watch the last show, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself?
Yeah, totally. My name is Luis Vargas. I'm a principal program manager on the SQL Server team, and I work with Azure to make Azure the best platform to run SQL Server in the world.
Woo! So this is the guy we love over here, yeah. All right, so you were here probably about 6 months ago
To
give us kind of an intro into SQL in an Azure VM.
Right.
So, and we were talking before. Let's talk about kind of what's new since then.
Yeah.
And then kind of from a portal experience, and then kind of things you've been working on.
Totally. So yeah, we have been doing a lot of good work on Azure to make sure that SQL is very, very easy to use, and we're helping automate and manage a bunch of things for SQL Server. So yeah, let's talk about that. What I'm thinking to do is let's go through the portal experience.
Okay.
Show some of the new things that we have added, and maybe we'll talk about some of the things that we're adding in the next 2 to 3 months as well.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay. I always love looking forward. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, so we have the Azure portal as usual here.
Yep.
By the way, I have a couple of virtual machines here running already SQL. Probably just show them at the end. My lab, this is DevTest Labs for people who have not used it. Great way of managing lab environments and auto start and auto shut down your machines at the end of the day.
Sure.
So let's go and just create a new SQL Server virtual machine. As usual, I could search for it, but I'm going to go through the long path. So I'm going to go into databases. And then in databases, I'm going to go and see all the database offerings that we have. Right, so here inside of database servers, we have SQL Server. Right? So we're going to click on SQL Server. And here we have the list of all the images that already come with SQL pre-installed.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing here is we have all the different versions and editions that we support for SQL Server. So customers who are using today SQL Server 2012 or even 2008 or 2, they can still go and have a virtual machine running with those versions of SQL Server very, very quickly.
Yeah. Can we take a quick tangent? Because I noticed the icon or the tile below that says SQL Server Always On cluster. Is this like, so what you have highlighted now is just a specific SQL Server spins up a single VM.
Correct.
Right? But I think that's pretty, how recent is that one, the Always On cluster? Isn't that?
That's probably, that's probably like 5 or 6 months ago, probably soon after the last time I came here.
Okay.
I can show that as well, and we can talk about that. That basically will configure a full Always On deployment end to end.
Yep. If we have time, we'll do that. Otherwise, maybe we have you come back and do a little bit deep dive. Because I think that would be an interesting one to go through that kind of end to end.
Totally. For people who want to have high availability and disaster recovery, that's a good way to do it.
Cool. Okay.
So we have, as I was saying, all the different versions of SQL Server. We have different editions as well. So you can see here in the screen, for example, we have Enterprise Edition, we have Web, Standard, etc. We can go all the way to SQL 2016, right? So the latest and greatest of SQL Server. And here we have, again, Enterprise Standard, Web. Something new that we introduced is a couple of images. So now we have SQL Express. Right?
Wow,
so for people who are not familiar with that, this is a free license SQL Server. You can use this even for your production workloads if you want. You don't have to pay for SQL licensing. But it's for lightweight workloads, really. Yeah. This is for very, very small workloads, all the way to 10 gigabytes of storage. It's very, very small, 1 gigabyte of memory. So if you have like a website who doesn't have a heavy traffic, you can go and run SQL Server for free with this image.
Wow,
right? So it's great to have. The other one that we have is SQL Server Developer Edition.
Okay.
And this has everything that SQL Server offers. So
yeah, this is because of like Servers Pack 1, it did that programmable surface area across all editions.
Exactly.
Is that why? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So just to recap, we released probably 3 or 4 months ago SQL Server 2016 Service Pack 1. And for the first time, we started adding a lot of the features that we only had in SQL Enterprise Edition, also in the Standard Edition. Right? So for example, things like in-memory tables and column store indexes and some of the security features that we have in SQL Enterprise are now available in SQL Standard as well. Having said that, there is always higher limits in terms of the performance that you can do with SQL Enterprise. Right? So the number of cores, for example, goes beyond 16 cores, and the amount of memory, it is unlimited. So whatever amount of memory you have in the virtual machine, you can use it. And there's some parallelization as well, so like some
cool.
optimization in terms of query processing and things like that.
Okay.
So SQL Enterprise is still the best edition to use for enterprise workloads. However, if you have some smaller workloads, you can still benefit from a lot of those enterprise features.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because we have a lot of ISVs and other customers that go, hey, they're running standard edition, right?
Yeah.
And, yes, the enterprise, you want to, if you have an enterprise workload, we have a lot of people go, hey, are these features in standard, right? So I think
Totally.
this is awesome that we support that.
Yeah, because now the programmability surface is the same.
It's the
So
same
you can
across,
just
yep.
go and change and get better performance with SQL
Yeah.
Enterprise, but you don't have to change your app.
Yep.
So for people who are writing a new application for the first time, or they want to test the new features in SQL 2016, the best way is to do it through SQL Developer Edition. Again, this is another free license image.
Okay.
So I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but you can just go and create this virtual machine with SQL Server Developer, and then you don't have to pay for the SQL licensing. So the SQL licensing is free. You can go and do as much development and as much testing as you want.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then at some point, if you're going to go and move into production, then is when you will have to look into SQL Standard, for example, or even SQL Enterprise,
Price.
depending on what you want.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, based
But
on your workload, yeah.
Definitely a great place to start. So those are definitely some new ones, new images that we have. The other one and big one that we have here is now SQL on Red Hat.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So as you know now,
Yep.
SQL Server
Cool.
is coming on Linux as well, sometime this year. And as part of that, we started making it easy for customers to go and try SQL on Red Hat for the first time.
Okay.
So we now have an image that comes with SQL pre-installed, running on Red Hat Enterprise.
Do we have telemetry data that says how many of those are being spun up? I mean, are people
Yeah,
looking
no,
at that?
there is a lot of interest. So at this point, it is probably thousands of virtual machines that are running on SQL in Linux at this point in time,
wow,
in
okay,
Azure.
okay.
There's a lot of interest, especially because still this image doesn't charge for SQL, obviously, because it's an evaluation edition,
Yep.
and doesn't charge for Red Hat either,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we have an agreement going on with Red Hat right now where they don't charge because this is still evaluation for both SQL
For both, okay.
and
Very
Red Hat and
nice.
Linux. So yeah, at some point, later this year, we're going to GA the offering. We're going to have the final version of SQL Server, and at that point, obviously, we're going to charge depending on the edition, enterprise or standard or web, etc. But for right now, it's all free. So
Yep.
people go on and try SQL
Cool.
on Linux.
Awesome.
The other final thing that we wanted to show is this. You see this BYOL thing. All of them start with BYOL. You may wonder what they are. Well, BYOL stands for Bring Your Own License. And these are images that come with SQL Server installed as well. It could be SQL Standard, SQL Enterprise. But they're not going to charge you for the SQL licensing cost. You can still use this for production. But what this allows you to do is bring your licenses. So for customers who today have an on-premises licenses, right, so they already have some license for SQL Server running in their corporate environment, they can easily bring those licenses into Azure and run SQL Server on Azure using those licenses. And let's quickly just show you how this works. The only constraint is this bring your own license benefit is for our software assurance customers. So customers who have this software assurance benefit, also called the enterprise agreement with Microsoft, they have access to them. And it's very, very simple. So all you do is you click on them, and all you have to do is within 10 days, you need to notify Microsoft. And there is a way to do it electronically. And you have to notify that you're going to bring a certain number of cores or license cores of SQL Server into Azure.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. I mean, the image will basically come with SQL install.
Does the
Obviously, you need to have an enterprise agreement.
Yeah.
to do that. Tell me.
does the compute price change if I'm bringing my own license, or
No, the compute price is still the same. So the cost of running the virtual machine itself doesn't change, and that depends on the size of the virtual machine.
Gotcha,
So obviously,
okay.
if you have a machine that has 32 cores and half a terabyte of RAM, it's going to be significantly more expensive than you have like a 1 or 2 core machine,
Okay.
with maybe 3 or 4
yeah,
gigabytes
I was
of
just
RAM.
wondering if since I'm bringing my own license, but that's okay. Yeah, you
Yeah, the licensing part is for SQL. Having said that, you can do the same with Windows Server. So people who are running Windows Server today on premises and they have licenses through software assurance, they can bring those as well to Azure.
Okay.
So definitely,
but the compute price is just across the board, right? So
compute prices across the board.
Yeah,
That doesn't change. But yeah, just recapping. So we have SQL 2016, including SP1, same probability surface. We have all the editions of SQL Server. We have developer, so
Yeah.
for people who want to start developer and development and testing. And then for lightweight workloads, we have Express. We talk about SQL on Linux, and obviously the BigWell images. So let's go and create a virtual machine with SQL. Let's go and try SQL 16 SP1 Enterprise. Right? As usual, we have the deployment model. Resource Manager is a new deployment model that we have, which allows you to manage groups of resources together and do things like resource control, access control, and things like that. So let's go and create a virtual machine. So some of these I'm going to go quickly. Some of these things we're very familiar with. So I'm going to say my SQL Server virtual machine and use some number. The disk type. So at this point, we default all of the SQL Server virtual machines to SSDs. This is because we want to offer the best performance when you try the SQL Server experience. SSDs are great, less than 4 millisecond latency. If you are running straight from the local cache, we have a local cache with these virtual machines, and if your database fits inside of the local cache, it is less than 1 millisecond latency, so super, super fast. Having said that, if all you want to do is just test the basic experience and you just want to functionally see how it works, you don't care too much about performance at this point, and you want the lowest cost,
you
just
can playing with it maybe and just experimenting.
You can always go and change into traditional hard drives. These are SATA drives. Definitely not as fast as SSDs, but if all you care about is functional testing, you can try that. Cool. Right, so I'm going to specify my administrator username, some password to make sure that I wrote it twice. Yes, got it right. My subscription, so this is where I want to create my resources, and the resource group. This is the logical grouping for all of my resources, so I can stop them together or restart them, pause them, delete them, whatever I want to do. So I'm going to say my SQL resource group and some number there. And the location, and as you know, we have more locations in the world than anybody else. So you can choose Australia, Brazil, Canada, Asia, Japan, Europe, a bunch of places in Europe, and obviously a bunch of places in the US, UK, etc. So we're going to select West US, because that's the closest one to where we are right now. And then we're going to move into the next part, which is choosing the size for the virtual machine. This is where you're going to pay for the compute cost. And you specify the number of cores that you want to run for SQL Server, the amount of memory, how many disks. These disks today can be all the way to 1 terabyte. We're actually going to increase the size. You can store more per disk, but right now it's 1 terabyte. So if you see, for example, this machine, DS14, it comes with 16 cores, 112 gigabytes of memory, 32 terabytes of storage. Right? So it's a lot of storage. 50,000 IOPS, definitely good for most applications. It has a local cache of 224 gigabytes, right? So this means if part of your database, or ideally, most of your database fits in there, that means that all of the reads are going to come locally from the cache of the machine. And again, that's 1 millisecond latency, very, very fast. Obviously, if you use things like compression, for example, in SQL, or column store indexes, that's going to compress significantly the size of both the tables and the indexes. And that means that you're probably going to fit 4 or 5 times more of your database into that cache.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
And have even better performance. For people who want bigger or smaller sizes, we have a lot more. So you select View All, and you have a lot more options here. People who need big machines, we have things like the GS5, for example, with 32 cores, 448 gigabytes of memory, right? Definitely more than.
Go big or go home.
So a bunch of servers there. 64 terabytes of space, 80,000 IOPS, right? You have a local SSD of
almost a terabyte.
And this is actually, I forgot to mention, this is a local SSD that you can use for whatever you want. Like this is a temporary drive, it's SSD. You can put like 10 DB there, for example. We actually don't show today here the size of the local read cache. That's actually in the documentation of our virtual machine sizes. But this machine, for example, comes with 4 terabytes of the read cache. So imagine, with compression or column store indexes, you probably can fit like 16 terabytes or so. And that's why, I don't know if we mentioned it before, probably not because that was recent. We announced, I think in October, November, that now we certify this machine, GS5, with Fast Track. Fast Track is a data warehousing certification that the SQL Server team provides for different hardware vendors. And we actually certified this machine, and this machine is certified for 16 terabytes of data warehousing. Basically, this means the SQL Server team says, if you run data warehousing on this machine up to 16 terabytes, There's actually some cases you can go all the way to 20 terabytes, but we recommend 16. We promise you good performance.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have a bunch of machines there for whatever you want to use. For now, let's stick to this one. We're going to use a DS14 machine. Again, good for most production workloads out there, 16 cores, 112 gigabytes of memory. And then we have some general settings for the virtual machine. All right, so probably you don't need to go and change these things. If you want, you can change things like, do you want to create a subnet, for example, for your network and things like that. You can create things like a public DNS name so that you can use a name to access your machine over the world, anywhere you want.
Oh, okay.
You can register a public DNS name. Then some diagnostics. It's always good to have by default the diagnostics for booting, for example, to understand what is happening during boot time. The guest OS diagnostics is good to enable this. This will allow you to track performance counters for the virtual machine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And this includes performance counters for Windows and SQL Server as well. Yeah. So, for example, we'll automatically start tracking things like transactional latency, number of transactions per second, things like CPU utilization for SQL, page lifetime, and things like that. So things that traditionally DBAs have been tracking, you can track them here. All right, so we're going to say OK. And then we get into the SQL Server aspect of the virtual machine. Right? Okay. Some of these we touched last time, but some of them are new, so we're going to go through the whole thing quickly. First thing, SQL connectivity. So how do you want to connect to SQL Server in this virtual machine? So you can specify local, which means you have to remote to the machine, so RDP to the machine, and it's all local. So this is like the highest level of security. Probably you're going to just do some basic testing, and you don't want to open the machine for anything else than just RDP. Private is probably the most commonly used setting, and this is you allow connectivity only within a virtual network. So the virtual network is a binary, a logical, secure binary for your network, where only resources inside of the network can see each other. Okay. Right? So if you have, for example, a website, and you want the website to use SQL Server, then you put the website and SQL Server within the same VNet, and it's the same secure binary. Also, people who have VPN tunnels, for example, you can configure a VPN tunnel through your physical router, and you can have something like, Cisco, or you can do it through even software, for example, Windows Server. But you can establish a VPN tunnel, and all the communication is secure between your on-premises environment and your VNet in Azure. Okay. And the same thing will apply. So if you select private connectivity to SQL Server, only machines that are part of your corporate environment will be able to connect as part of that VPN tunnel. Okay. And then the final offering, or the final option, is public, and this opens connectivity over the internet. And this is for people doing depth tests, for example. And this is what I'm going to use here. Like if I want to connect from my laptop through Management Studio, and I want to go and do some development over the internet, and I want to connect from everywhere in the world, I just specify that. Okay. Obviously, I can still specify firewall options, and I can specify who or which specific IPs can connect and things like that. But I make it easy to connect over the internet by doing this. The SQL port, by default 1433, SQL authentication. So by default, if you enable this option, we make the Windows administrator also a SQL administrator. Oh, okay. Yeah. And this is useful, like if I want to connect from a different domain, or even outside of a domain, like if I just have a work group and I want to connect to SQL Server, then I can use these credentials for that. Storage configuration. So we have tweaked this experience a little bit based on some feedback that we got from customers. It's a really, really easy experience, very, very easy to understand and follow. So this is specifying just the number of files and throughput that you need for your storage. Okay. So on premises, everybody understands today IOPS, just how many operations per second I do on the storage, and throughput, like how many megabytes or gigabytes per second I need to write into the storage, right? So we just expose that, and if you have that information for SQL Server in your server, which is very easy to get through, like performance counters, for example, you know how many IOPS you need, you can simply go and specify the number of IOPS that you need here. Okay. Right. And this is based on, it takes these numbers based on the size of the VM that you Correct. Okay. Correct. Like in this case, this virtual machine, DS14, allows me to go all the way to 50,000 IOPS. If I need less than that, I can go to a smaller machine. If I need more than that, I can go to a bigger machine. Okay. Right. And obviously, I can specify also the number of disks that I want to be configured for having more storage size. So, right. So if I want all the way to 32 terabytes, for example, of space, I can specify that. So in this case, I'm going to go small. Let's go to maybe 30,000 IOPS, something like that. Right? And then it tells me how many data disks are going to be created as part of this experience.
Okay.
Right? So in the end, this is going to create 6 data disks. These are going to be 1 terabyte each. Right? And all of these disks are going to be available to SQL Server to provide the right number of IOPS and bandwidth that I need. And finally, I can specify the optimization of the storage. So this is a very cool thing as well. What do you want to do with your workload? So if you want to do transactional processing, for example, and you want your transactions to commit as soon as possible, then you probably want to use transactional processing, because in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a storage space on Windows. It's just a virtual disk. It's like a logical disk on top of all the disks. And we're going to create the right stripe size. And the stripe size is what is the size of the chunks that SQL is going to write into that virtual machine. So if you want to use transactional processing, we use 64 kbytes, which is the recommended size of those chunks, right?
So it does all that for you?
It does all of that for you. Yeah, you don't have to think about, you know how in the past, you went and read the best performance practices for SQL Server, and you have to go and optimize your storage and specify some trace flags on SQL Server and all that. All of that is on for you.
Oh man, that's sweet.
So you specify that, or you specify data warehousing. If all you care about is just being able to execute complex queries that read as much data as they can from the storage.
So one's more read heavy, data warehouse is more read heavy, where transactional is more read write heavy. CP heavy.
Yes. It's basically, do you want to commit transaction as soon as possible, or do you want to read as much as you can, and you don't care as much about the transactional latency? So let's say we want transactional processing. Right. The next thing is automated patching. So this is another common thing that people have to do. So if you have a workload that needs to run 24/7, but you still want to patch it, you want to patch Windows and SQL for the latest performance or security hotfixes, you need to somehow specify when you want that patching to happen. You can do it manually, which is quite a bit of work, or you can do it through Azure. And here you can specify when do you want patching to happen. So you can specify any day of the week. You can specify when do you want the patching to start. So by default, it's 2 in the morning. This is UTC time. So whatever time the machine is running in is going to be 2 in the morning.
Okay, so this is UTC time. Okay.
Yeah, that's your time, your local time.
Your local time. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you change the time of the machine,
Pacific Coast time, West Coast time.
Right. So obviously, like this happens to be in Asia, for example, it will be 2 in the morning in Asia time. Right?
Okay.
And then the maintenance window, and this is how much time do you want to dedicate to patching? So it can go all the way to 3 hours there. And what happens is we start patching, we download all the patches, we start applying them, and we'll reboot the machine if the patch is required the machine to be rebooted. However, let's say that we already hit the maintenance window and we don't have any more time. So that time we stop the patching, right? We're not going to reboot anymore. We pause it there, and then the next time, the next week, when we hit again the patching window, we're going to continue.
Okay.
And this guarantees that you have always the latest hotfixes, but also that your workload is not impacted.
Gotcha. Okay. Good.
So definitely very useful to have. Then we have automated backup. Another very, very common thing that DBAs have to do. We can enable it by default, and what this will do is will basically automatically take backups for you, right? Now, let's go through the options. So the first option is retention period, and this specifies how long do you want Azure to keep your backups for. Some customers only need them for a week, some customers need them for a month. So you can specify that in here. And what this will do is it will keep those backups for that period of time. But if at some point, we pass a retention period and the backups are not required anymore, we can delete them for you. And what this is going to allow you is just reduce the storage price because you're not using the storage anymore.
What if you need them longer than that and you just back them up from the storage? Or?
Yeah, so that's something that we're looking into, like basically automatically support long-term retention and being able to specify up to years, like potentially 7 years or so. Right now, the only way to do it is you just need to specify. You can do it through a PowerShell script, for example, that automatically looks at this at the end of the retention period and then copies this into cold storage, for example. So now we have cold storage, which is very, very, very cheap, and you can store years of data, for example, there. So today it still requires a PowerShell scripting to do. It's something that we're going to have sometime soon. Encryption, so if you want to encrypt your backups for security reasons, and by doing this, what will happen is SQL Server will generate an encryption key and an encryption certificate, and that will be used to encrypt my backups.
Okay.
So obviously, your storage account is already encrypted, and only you and your virtual machine have access to that storage account. But this is additional security on top of that. So your backup itself is going to be encrypted, and only SQL Server will have the ability to decrypt the backup. Couple of new features. So now we allow you to back up system databases.
Oh,
so,
very nice. Okay.
We back up now master, model, and MSDB. So it's still important to have master and MSDB. There is some instance level functionality that is stored there. For example, logins, or things like agent jobs, for example, or replication jobs and things like that. So by enable this, basically we'll back up also your system databases. So you have the guarantee that your system databases are also backup, and you can always restore it to some point in time.
Yeah.
This is another option. So by default, we specify the backup schedule as automated. What this means is we'll automatically take backups for you, and we'll take them based on the amount of log that your databases generate on the server.
Okay.
So if your SQL Server instance is generating a lot of log, right, because it's very, very active, and you're doing a lot of index rebuilds and doing a bunch of bulk loads and things like that, and we're going to generate a lot of logs. So we're going to take backups more frequently.
Okay.
And that works for some people. Some people don't want to have to think about the schedules and how to take backups, and it works great for them. Some of our other customers want more control. They want to be able to specify how often do I want my full backups to take place, for example.
Yep.
So now we allow them to do that. So you can say, I want to take my backups either daily or weekly, right? These are full backups. You can specify, similar to the patching window, when the backup will take place, right? You can also specify the time window for the backup, right? So during that time window, we'll go and try to back up all of the databases in the server, right? If at some point we can't finish because let's say you have 100 databases and you only specify 2 hours, we'll continue in the next window as well. So you can specify the window here as well. And finally, the frequency of your log backups, right? And this is how often in minutes we're going to take these log backups, right? Couple of things to mention, and I think it's just a good opportunity to explain to the audience. In Azure, we maintain 3 copies of every disk for these virtual machines, right? We have a continuous process that is looking at the disks, and if we detect for some reason that there is corruption in the disk, like we verify a checksum, and if we detect that, we automatically decommission the disks and bring a new copy. So at all times we have 3 copies, and what that guarantees is that your data will always be safe and secure, and we have 3 copies, and we'll never ever lose your data.
Okay.
So you can see how this is different from on-premises, where you have to worry about that. And because of that, probably you have to take backups more frequently because you don't know when the storage system may go wrong. So in this case, what is the purpose of the backups? Well, the purpose of the backups is really one, for compliance reasons. Some customers require to have backups all to a certain point in time and being able to go back in time in case it's required. And also in case of human errors. So let's say that by mistake I delete a table, or I run some job that I didn't want to, and suddenly I updated the table by mistake and I need to go back in time. That's what my backups are going to be useful for.
Okay.
Right? But again, the data protection part, you're safe, you have 3 copies, your data will never be lost.
Yep.
All right? So that's for the backup part.
Flexibility there, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see a lot of stuff we're doing here. All right, so Key Vault, I'm going to touch on this one only for a few seconds. So again, for encryption, so if you're encrypting your backups or you're encrypting your database through transparent database encryption, SQL will need to create a key, a private key for encryption. And by default, SQL stores that key locally as part of the instance. We have something called the Azure Key Vault, and the Azure Key Vault is a secure HSM. It's a hardware store module. I may be wrong with that one, but basically it's a hardware solution that allows you to store keys and manage keys in a secure way, and it has a secure channel between the set of VNets that we have in Azure and the module itself, and this allows any software that needs to manage keys for encryption, decryption, or key rotation to use that module to store the key.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's a secure way of doing this. For people who are interested in looking into Key Vault, Today, you go and create key vault. We don't have a UI experience yet with something that we're working into add into the portal. You can do it through PowerShell, for example. And once you have the key vault data, you have a URL, for example, and some secrets, you can connect these to your SQL machine, and then SQL can use the key vault to store the keys. Right? So something else that is very interesting. We're going to keep improving the UI, but it's something that is available already today. Final one, our services. So starting with SQL 2016, we have our services, which is in-database advanced analytics, and this allows you to run one of hundreds of different algorithms for things like forecasting, classification, clustering, basically the principles of machine learning integrated within SQL Server. So there is a lot of interest right now in our the language R and our services.
We just had UC on last week.
Good. So if you want to go and try our services, there is no easiest way to do that than go and create a virtual machine with SQL Developer, right? And then you can enable our services here, which basically is going to download the right set of packages. You know, some of these things are open source, so we're going to download them. We're going to configure them, install them. And by the time that this machine is ready and running, you can just go and automatically start running your R code on top of your SQL Server.
Okay, cool.
So we're going through all of this experience. When we click OK, we're going to see the summary of all the things that we have done. So you see we have the name of the virtual machine. We have its SSD storage. We know that it is a 16-core machine. Public connectivity for SQL Server. We enabled SQL authentication, so we can authenticate to SQL Server using my credentials. We enabled our services. We optimized this machine for transactional processing, right? For 6 terabytes of storage, 30,000 IOPS, 768 megabytes per second. We automated patching on Sundays and 2 in the morning. We automated backups. We keep our backups for 30 days. We encrypted backups. The backups will be going to be taken every week, 2 in the morning. We're going to give 6 hours to the backups. We're going to take log backups every 60 minutes. So see all the stuff that we did. I mean, obviously, we went through this and we explained every option, and this is why it took us so long. You know, once you understand this, you can probably go and do this through, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, right? And your machine will be running in 10 minutes. So we're talking about 12 to 13 minutes. In 13 minutes, you have a machine with all of these things. Just imagine today on premises, how long will it take you to get a machine and configure it and optimize it and specify all of these options?
That's assuming you have the hardware too.
Assuming you have the hardware, right? So at this point, I could just go and say, OK, and this will go and create my machine. Again, 10 minutes, and it'll be running. I could also download the template, and the template is going to show me a JSON template. This is a declarative way that specifies all the arguments that I specified through that configuration. And you see there is a lot of stuff here. You can open this through Visual Studio and go and modify it. I mean, you can open it in Notepad if you want. Probably Visual Studio will be easier. And you see all the arguments here. And the purpose here is you can download this, and after you download, you can add to your library, and then you can go and replicate this 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 times.
So I can do something to automate the deployment of my,
You could just run this in a loop, and suddenly you have 100 of these virtual machines with all the stuff that we specified.
Okay, very cool.
Right, so
that's amazing.
You can do that. You can click OK, and now it's going to go and create the machine. It's going to take a little bit of time. So we're not going to wait right now because we need to finish the show for adding. So we're going to show one that is already running. So here we have one that is running SQL 16 Enterprise Edition. These are the diagnostics that I was mentioning before. So we show things like CPU and information about disk reads and writes, information about the network, etc. I can go and change anything that I did before. This is an important point. So don't worry about, if you selected something wrong in the beginning, I can go and select SQL Server configuration, for example, and I can go and change anything that I want, right? Like I can go into storage, for example, and I can add new drives, or I can extend my drive. Very, very easy to do, right? I can go and change the connectivity, the patching, the backups, our services. So everything can be changed.
So I don't have to RDP into the box and change that. I can just do it right here, and it'll make
You can do it, right? Man. So easy.
Yeah.
For people doing development and testing, sometimes I hear some customers say, oh, I started my trial and I run out of my credits, sooner than I expected. You can go and configure auto shutdown. An auto shutdown, you can specify, if you want your machine to be automatically shut down at the end of the day. So if you come to the office at, depending on what time you start, like I start probably at 10, I probably work on the evenings, but you specify whatever time you want, and you can specify when do you want to shut down your machine automatically. So you can specify 7 in the evening or whatever time you want, and your machine will stop at that time, and you will stop paying for the compute cost of the machine.
That's awesome. So, and will automatically start at that, do I have to manually restart it, or it'll just shut down and restart for me?
So today you still have to manually restart it in the morning because we don't know, if developers are going to be at the 7 in the morning or at 1 in the afternoon, depending on, whatever they were doing the previous night. So today still is manual. We're actually planning to show that as well here, just to simplify. But right now we have auto shutdown. So again, a great way to save compute credits.
Yeah, save me some money because if I'm I go home at 7, come back in at 7 or 8 or 9, and they'll come in till 10.
Yeah.
I don't want to be paying for those hours, the compute hours when I'm not using
Totally.
the box.
And this could, you just imagine instead of running the machine 24 hours in a day, you're running 8 hours. That's 1/3.
Yep.
So you can extend 3 times your utilization, right, on your credits.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. I ran out of credit.
Just as a challenge,
Yeah.
If you're doing a good job, you can you configure auto shutdown, for example. You can go and use SQL Developer, which again is a free license SQL server on a 4-core machine for a whole month for development and testing with a trial account.
Wow.
A whole month.
Yeah.
Yeah, for free.
So sign up now. Why haven't you signed up?
Go on, do it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's all I was going to show. Obviously, what happens once you go and do all that. You will have an IP associated with the machine or a DNS name. Like in this case, I haven't created a DNS name yet, but I have an IP here. So I can just go into my SQL Server Management Studio in my laptop, for example, and I can go and just connect my engine. I'll connect to that IP address or DNS name, and I have a SQL Server that is running, and I can just go and do whatever I want to do.
And I don't have to do anything other than that, right? Just tell it public, and it'll go create the firewall rules for me in the OS, things like that?
Yeah, correct.
Awesome. Okay.
So you can just specify, whatever you want, right? So anyway, I hope I have my T-SQL skills. Oh, that worked. Okay. So you can just go and do that, right?
Okay.
And do whatever you want. So yeah, that's basically the experience.
Okay.
We continuously keep improving.
Yep.
This is something that is only available in Azure. You won't find it anywhere else. Anywhere else you'll find just a virtual machine.
Yep.
And you'll have to do everything else.
Everything else. Great experience, and I love that because it proves that you guys that we're continually thinking about how do we make the experience better.
Yep.
Not only for including how do we save you money.
Yep.
Which is awesome, right?
Yep.
Because everybody's like, oh, we want to charge you. Well, no, we want to save you money.
Yep.
Right. Plus, make the experience better.
Totally.
Right? Very nice. I would love to have you back to
Totally,
go over
yep.
more of this, and then I'd love the the always on one because
Let's do that. Yeah.
that'd be a good one.
Let's do that.
Awesome.
We'll talk about always on next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
for coming. Hey everybody. Thanks for watching. We look forward to having Luis back, and we will see you next time.